Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Oh, Tony, it is Michigan State week, which generally in Ohio State history means it's a week Ohio State's going to win. Unless they don't. And boy, howdy, do people remember the ones they don't. But usually they win.
Yeah, it's been 25 years since Ohio State has lost up there in East Lansing, 1999. Buckeyes a 24-point favorite in this one. I think it seems kind of high. I know there are players around. I'm not trying to say that too loudly, but it seems kind of high, given the Big Ten road opener. But here we are at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. We talked with Ryan Day, Donovan Jackson, Caden Curry, Jeremiah Smith, TreVeyon Henderson, Josh Simmons, and I think that's it.
Cody Simon.
And Cody Simon. But he didn't have the green dot, so I did not talk to him.
Yeah, that's true. You and Jim Knowles not talking to Cody Simon this week.
So
shaking hands meme. We have Caleb Downs in the show title here. We were told we were going to get Caleb Downs, and then we didn't get Caleb Downs. Sometimes players not available after practice. So we apologize. We're not trying to clickbait you. We apologize.
No, we apologize for that. But now that we have mentioned him, we can't keep him in the title.
There you go.
Somebody that probably maybe not in the title, Tyleek Williams, did practice today. Ryan Day said he looked good. He had a good day. So that's the positive sign that you would like to see if he's going to be end up playing this week. So I would expect him out there since he's practicing. Ryan Day didn't have to say he's day-to-day, but we know everybody is.
Aren't we all, Tony?
But good get back for the Buckeyes.
Yeah, if they can get him back, that feels like that would be potentially a really important addition because of what Aiden Childs, the new Michigan State quarterback, can bring. I think they got a nice sort of prep, like you did your what was the SAT prep course, the Princeton Review prep course before the SAT.
I'm ACT baby.
Oh
Ohio.
well, sorry, I'm speaking East Coast. I will translate. There is a prep course for a test that is like the ACT, but with it says orange a little differently in water, and. So they kind of got a little bit of a prep for the running, throwing, probably not a lot of deep passes, but a similar maybe-ish offense last week against Marshall. And I think the Ohio State fan base probably got a decent taste of like, hey, it would probably be going better if Tyleek Williams was in there. So the potential to maybe bring him back this weekend, if he does end up being good to go, would be probably a pretty big deal.
Yeah, he's a disruptive guy, and if he can disrupt up the middle, that's going to force Aiden Childs out of the pocket. And then if you've got one of these defensive ends just hanging out waiting for him, then you can contain him. But he's going to get loose. He's going to get free. He will run. He ran I think nine rushes for 70-some yards against Boston College. I watched that game a couple of days ago. He's very, very dynamic, but threw 3 interceptions and had 2 others thrown into double coverage that bounced off of defenders' hands. So it could have been even worse. This is going to be an opportunity for Ohio State to come away with some interceptions. No turnovers forced the last 2 games. So I think that perhaps changes. One other lineup note, sounds like Austin Snyder may continue to do kickoffs because they feel good about that. And Jaden Fielding will just handle field goals and placements. So that is the other bit of news from Ryan Day. And of course, we know the Austin Searveld will continue to rotate in with Tager Shabola. And talking with Josh Simmons and Donovan Jackson, they're like, doesn't matter. Everybody's playing well.
Yeah. Talking to Josh Simmons, he mentioned Austin Searveld and just how impressive it was that he was able to just sort of step right in and just kind of go. And that was, he said they didn't miss a beat when Austin Searveld went in. And this is back in, he was asked about fall camp. So this is right when Donovan Jackson went down. And Donovan Jackson missed basically the back half of fall camp for the most part. So Austin Searveld had multiple weeks there. And he said, didn't miss a beat. And, Donovan Jackson is a fantastic veteran player. So for someone to step in, first real experience as a starter with the ones and be able to do that, that says a lot. And that sort of shows you why he's in, I keep using the phrase circle of trust because it feels like they sort of have tiers. It's like they've got the first team and the second team, but some guys are, it's a little like Animal Farm. Some animals are more equal than others. Some of the twos are, and some of the ones are more equal than the others.
Well, and we could talk about him because we're talking about him, but he's behind us, and he's been doing. He came out for his customary 10 minutes.
He being Donovan Jackson.
Yeah, Donovan Jackson. Sorry, and then has done one-on-ones for the past 20 minutes, making up for lost time, being out for a while with somebody mentioned, the broadcast said you had a hamstring injury. When did that happen? He's like, the broadcast said that? Because I'm not going to say anything unless if it's already out there, then we can go. It's like, I don't want to be tricked on anything. But
the broadcast told us your social security number too.
Last four, all nine. Yeah, all 9. 7, I don't know. 10.
I can't believe your mother's maiden name is that. What's your favorite word that rhymes with it?
That's your pet's name too?
Wow.
Anyway. So, obviously grateful to be back. He was very frustrated throughout because he felt like he could come back. And Ryan Day was like, no, you're not ready. And medical staff were saying you're not ready. And so, he said he was, annoying. I've always been a stubborn kid. Ask my mom. He's like, I was just a frustrated player. And with a coach who wants what's best for the player, protecting me from myself.
Well, and that's exactly what it is, because you go back to August, and of course, you came back for another year. There's been all this talk about the goals this year and all the things, and every day you have to get 1% better, and you can't necessarily get 1% better if you're sitting on the sideline because you're injured. But you have to look at the big picture, and the big picture is, this team is going to beat Akron, and this team is going to beat Western Michigan, and this team is going to beat Marshall, whether he's playing left guard or maybe I'm playing left guard. The big picture is you got to get healthy for now, for Big Ten season, for not necessarily just this week against Michigan State, but the tests are now getting a little sterner every week for the next several weeks. So you have to every athlete always wants to play. Coaching youth softball and hockey, you have to go through all of this concussion training, because it's like, here's all the stuff everyone's going to say to you, and here's how you have to say no, because you can't, because you absolutely can't. And the phrase that they use in that is, when in doubt, sit them out. And that feels like that's the case here too. Why would you rush him back and risk having the Jackson Smith and Jigba hamstring thing from a couple of years ago, where it felt like they were playing it safe, and they weren't playing it safe enough, and then he basically missed the whole year.
Well, and that was brought up as well, as that's something that goes through your mind, because when it's immediately a hamstring, he's like asking the staff, like, how long is this going to take? What does this mean? And the quote is, it's a hamstring, dude. There's no telling. It takes however long it takes, and it's not going to take a minute less than that. And so, but he's feeling good now. Was still dealing with some pain before while he was out. But you're talking about only so many of these games. You're a senior now. He missed 2 home games. And so I think it was clear that he took his frustrations out on the Marshall defensive line, and he's going to continue to do that, I would assume, in this one. One other thing from Donovan Jackson, talking about what Seth McLaughlin brings, is just, he said he communicates almost up to the snap, because he's seen everything, and now he's also seeing everything. And just having that guy in there, there's always communication. Everybody knows what to expect, and he gives them the best information as long as he can. It's like Waze, basically. He's the Waze of centers. Like, oh, there's cops over here. You might want to.
There's a police officer in 18C.
Yes,
watch out for that.
There's a free tech right here. The mic is right over there.
Man, the Georgia football team is so jealous right now. It's funny because that communication was something that Cody Simon talked about as well, obviously on the other side of the ball. But he was asked about not having the green dot. He had the green dot on the back of his helmet, and then how different was it to not have the green dot last week, because Sonny Styles had it. And he said, honestly, not really that different, because they're all out there communicating. It's not just, the one guy's got Jim Knowles in his ear, but everyone else, you're still talking to each other. You're pointing. You see him gesturing. You can tell this is not just a third base coach giving, decoy signs. They're communicating with each other constantly. So I think that's a very big thing, because down on the field, you hear it. You hear them talking, and the center's pointing out the mic, but they're hey, the defense is shifting around. Okay, who do you have? All that kind of stuff. You hear that stuff all the time, and that's a really, really key portion of making sure that's how missed assignments don't happen, is making sure everyone's on the same page.
Getting back to Ryan Day, just to finish out some of the stuff, he was asked, hey, have you heard about the UNLV stuff? And he's like, no. And had Bill Rabinowitz explained it to him. He's like, yeah, I don't know. And then I want to be like, what do you think now? Now that you know about
now
it,
that you know all about
what do you
it,
think?
yeah.
Jeremiah Smith, he was asked about what allows a freshman to have this kind of impact right away. And the first thing is, you got to get here in January. You've got to be a mid-year enrollee, and then you have to be physically, mentally, and emotionally able to handle this. You got to be mature enough, and he's done that. And then the ability to assimilate in terms of not just the school portion, but every single rep, every single play, you have to go at it hard, and that's difficult for not just freshmen, but a lot of people to get through to them. And Jeremiah Smith is an example of one of those that he came in. It was all of that was understood. And you talked.
Yeah. I was over there a little bit as well. I feel like coming in as a freshman in a team like this, you sort of know the people, but it's also kind of like being the new guy in the office a little bit, where you don't want to be too pushy or too loud or whatever. You just kind of have to fit in, sort of get, and then eventually you kind of become a part of the team.
Yeah.
Being a freshman's kind of like that at the college level, especially, and even maybe more so, because when you're hired to do a job, there's a little bit of a ramp-up period. But if you're hired to be the chief financial officer of a company, guess what? They're not starting you in the mailroom. Yeah. You're starting in the job. A lot of the freshmen will start in the college football equivalent of the mailroom. Jeremiah Smith is jumping right into the C-suite. He is right in there. And he said he was asked, do you feel like a regular freshman? He said he still feels like a regular freshman, but he said he did thank the coaches for trusting him to be in the role that he is. But you definitely get the sense he definitely had to earn that trust.
It's interesting because he's a young guy in a position where it's like the president makes the son the VP, and it's like, you didn't earn this, but he's actually the young guy who has earned it.
There have been a few of those in college football, if you think back over the years.
I can't think of any.
None. Jeremiah Smith also a true freshman moment in a way. Said, this is Michigan State. Yeah, they're a way better team than the last three teams we've played. It's like, okay, I mean, it's good that you didn't say that a couple weeks ago. Everyone knows it. It's like, Marge and the naming of the Hurricanes. It's true, but you shouldn't say it.
I do. This is going to be an interesting test. We've seen him in practice against some very good corners. This will be the best corners he plays against on a Saturday, not in Ohio Stadium in a scrimmage. So I am interested to see how that goes for him, what kind of impact he has there, and how aggressive Michigan State is, and how much that leads to some downfield stuff, because we know they're going to continue doing the RPO stuff. Just interested to see how much downfield stuff is going on with them. Yeah,
that's going to be a challenge, and going on the road is going to be a little bit different. We heard them piping in crowd noise. I'm going to be very interested how first of all, they pipe in crowd noise every practice. That's been going on for years when they're going on to a road game. But this is the first time they're going into a road game with the helmet technology and the helmet radios, and how different is that going to be? And I'm not anticipating, Michigan State is not the loudest stadium in the Big Ten by any means. It's 70,000 seats, and there's probably going to be 10,000 Ohio State fans there at least. And it's also a stadium where if you get off to the kind of starts that Ohio State has against Michigan State, that crowd can not stay very loud for very long. But I am interested in what that experience is like for them with those helmet radios. I was not over there. Did Ryan Day talk about that at all?
No. But with I'm coming in, somebody's like, oh, they're playing crowd noise, and in anticipation, like maybe anticipation of like the first quarter, based on the way some Michigan State games have gone. But again, 24 is a lot of points. One other thing from Ryan Day, I asked him when we talked to Will Howard yesterday. He talked about how he wants to start running more. He's ready to start running more, and now they've reached that point of the schedule where the Ohio State quarterbacks that can run start running more. And what was the messaging to him? He's like, you don't really have to tell him much, because he's done it all before. He didn't say that we're going to start running him more, but he's like, it's a nightmare for the defense, because not only do you have to factor him in, it kills your leverage on the backside and all of these different things that you can do with him. Or if the reads, of course, we know, but it's something that the defense has to account for, and it's something that defenses have accounted for, but he hasn't really made them pay for anything to this point. And now I think you're going to start seeing some of that come through in the Big Ten.
A couple other things. I was just told that Aaron Nolan lost his black stripe today, so that's a positive sign for another true freshman who's in the process of sort of assimilating into the Ohio State program. Got a chance to talk to TreVeyon Henderson. Told a funny story about, speaking of assimilation, meeting Quinshon Judkins and first impressions of Quinshon Judkins, and said when he first met Quinshon Judkins, Quinshon came into the room and he said he gave us this speech, which basically boiled down to, and I'm going to quote, "I'm a dog," close quote. He said he knew right away they'd get along just fine. So that was good. Also talked about the fact that splitting carries with him obviously helps with wear and tear, but said Ryan Day has talked to the entire team about, hey, we have other guys. You are not the only guy standing between, Ohio State football and utter disaster. So if you're tired, we have other guys that can make plays. Please tap your helmet and it's fine.
I'm imagining the scene from Anchorman or Ron Burgundy is like ready to do a cannonball or whatever, and he's like, "Everybody, I need your attention," and then he's just like, "I'm a dog."
I bet it was a fantastic speech, and I bet, that's one of those I would have loved to be there.
What is it? Like, I've come here to do two things, and
yes.
And I'm
all out of bubble gum. Yes. Let's see. Yeah, you know what? The "I'm a dog" speech worked better than the "I'm a dog" act out worked for Ole Miss several years ago.
There you go.
Let's see. Speaking of losing your black stripe, Cody Simon was asked about losing his black stripe. You can tell when people are working on a series on stuff. You get here questions about black stripe.
Out of the blue.
But I talked about the fact that losing his black stripe is one of the best days of his life. And that happened during COVID, which, as we all recall, was kind of a weird and difficult time for a lot of people. I think that was a real bright light for him. He said he couldn't remember who lost the black stripe first. That might have been Court Williams in his class, but said, he thought it was going to be him. It wasn't him, but when he did, that was a really big thing for him. Let's see, other things. Called Caleb Downs a coach on the field. So drop a dollar in the jar for the 1,000th time we've heard that. Caden Curry talked a bunch about being a baseball player. Like, he just kind of brought it up. Every once in a while, you'll have a guy who just sort of like brings something up casually, and then the whole interview becomes about that because it's like, oh, I didn't know that. And he was a left-handed pitcher for his high school team. Apparently had a very good curveball. Threw up in the upper 80s. Apparently,
sounds like a lefty.
Had a couple college offers, but said, I love college football way too much. So that was not, and offers to potentially play multiple sports, but he said loves college football way too much. He was asked about the, performing as a pitcher, and, everyone's looking at you. That probably helped him a little bit in terms of his development, but also the pain management of being a pitcher, that when you're a pitcher, your shoulder just hurts until the season's over and you stop pitching for a while, and then it feels good until the day after the first time you throw again. Said he's built up a lot of cartilage and all that in his shoulder, so that's probably helped him a little bit.
Did anybody ask if Taiwan Malone could hit him?
No one asked if Taiwan Malone could hit, but he did say he and Taiwan obviously talk, because of course Taiwan Malone was a baseball player at Ole Miss in addition to being a football player before he came to Ohio State. So that is something they have in common, something to talk about. But I do not think we got a direct call out of who was going to do the Roy Hobbs versus the Whammer thing.
Do we have any questions?
Surprisingly few. We have Lisa Sims. Good thing about our game this weekend being on Peacock is people won't be able to hate watch our team without going through extra trouble to do so.
No hate watching in the Buckeyes this week because they're on Peacock, and I don't know, people super chat the show to like Michigan fans will hate watch and super chat the show. Love hate watch, maybe.
Yeah.
But it is interesting. It's like, do I really want to hate watch this for $9 or whatever it is now? Like, do you have the Friends reruns? Those are on Netflix. Like, what's the point? Mad about you? No.
You got to figure that a lot of teams are going to have a game on Peacock or have already had a game on Peacock. So there are probably a certain number of fan bases that they already paid because their team was on 2 weeks ago and their month hasn't run out. So you are probably going to have some folks. So you may catch some indirect strays, but if the game goes like all of Ryan Day's previous Michigan State games have gone, then it will not be Ohio State catching too many strays.
No, it's difficult to hate watch the Buckeyes right now because they're doing pretty well.
Yep.
Kevin, that's it. Okay. Anything else from today? Because we talked with Josh Simmons was good. One of his quotes, I think he's talking about the Big Ten, said it's time to lock in and floor it. Which I thought, we're getting some good quotes. I wonder where all these quotes are coming from. He also credited Justin Fry for getting him just smarter as a football player and as an offensive line. We called him a genius, and we've seen this rise from Josh Simmons this year, like all of last year and then into this year. And I know there's a segment of the population that isn't interested in giving Justin Fry credit for anything, but you talk to Josh Simmons and he couldn't say enough about the guy. But again, and the way Josh Simmons is playing, he's just you can count on him, and he's going to have his biggest test this week. Though last week they faced one good defensive end. They've got some guys at Michigan State that can play a lot of places. Yeah,
and Josh Simmons also talked about the fact that he's really looking forward to this weekend because he said his favorite thing is to go into someone else's stadium and steal their food. Now, I think that's a metaphorical thing.
Right. Okay. Does he have the food tickets at Michigan State?
The food tickets for Michigan State? Yes, always the question. But I thought that was a good line. Go up there and steal their food. So yeah, I think this is one of those games where your first road game of the year. I know in a typical year or a young team, that's kind of a little bit of oh boy, how is this team going to respond? This is a team full of guys that have done this before, and Cody Simon talked about the fact that this is something that they keep very similar to a home game. You're in a hotel. They keep everything as similar. They they do the same stuff. They, a home game, other than having to get on an airplane, a home game at 7:30 p.m. is probably as similar to a road game at 7:30 p.m. as a home game at 7:30 p.m. is to a home game at noon. It just feels like they are very intentional about keeping things consistent, keeping guys on routine. And with a veteran team like this is not the most intimidating road venue they're going to play in this year by any means. This just feels like this is a team that, with the focus that you've seen out of them consistently, this just feels like a team that is, this will break up the, sort of mundane streak of home games, I guess, more than anything.
Business trip with a purpose. By the way, I saw, they've changed their hotel routine at home. They're staying downtown now. Brian Hartline tweeted out last Saturday, that the team bus now comes down 15th Avenue, down Frat Row. So I think it's an interesting change.
That is,
could end up leading to some shenanigans, but not this week.
Brian Hartline doxing himself on Twitter.com.
Let's see. Another coach on the field. Yes, we know. Caleb Downs is another coach on the field. Tell us something we don't know. One last thing from, they're facing a quarterback that ran last week and asking Cody Simon, how do you're going to see it again this week. How do you get better at it? He's like, well, we're always aware of our issues. So the things that they struggled at last week, they've worked on this week. Now you still, just because a quarterback, an athletic quarterback gets away from you, that's not bad scheme or poor tackling. Sometimes those guys are just really tough to bring down. And I think that's something you always need to keep in mind. And I wrote it last week. People are going to be frustrated by the facing the quarterback that can run. It's like, defenses hate those guys. That's why Urban Meyer is, I want guys that defenses hate. I want a quarterback that can run the ball. And, he made it a point while he was at Ohio State to do that, because it's just a complete pain. And if you can get a guy like Will Howard that can do both, and Aiden Childs has the potential to do both, he's just, the accuracy waxes and wanes, Tom. I don't know which one is better there, but it certainly wanes at times. And if he's going to have to get lucky on some of his throws to be as accurate as he needs to be, but they're aware that he's going to be running, and so they're going to have to plan for that.
Well, I'm reminded of Ryan Day's first team at Ohio State. Do you remember they're going to run a one high? Do you remember why they ran a one high?
Was it to contain difficult quarterbacks?
No, it was because that was the defense that Ryan Day hated to see.
Oh, that's right.
So
yes, yeah, correct.
If other teams hate to see running quarterbacks, guess what? All 5 quarterbacks in Ohio State's roster have in common this year. They're more mobile than either of the guys have had the last 3 years. So, that's something that, it works out great for Ohio State, and you are cheering for the fact that Will Howard can extend a play or extend a drive or whatever with his legs. The other guy who also has legs, famously in football, the other guy also has legs.
It's always a plus.
Yes.
So
I think there was one more thing. Oh, yeah, TreVeyon Henderson. Speaking of people with legs, TreVeyon Henderson was asked about Carlos Loughlin and how hard Carlos Loughlin coaches him. And he was very complimentary of Carlos Loughlin, but I thought was interesting was he started his answer talking about Tony Alford. Now, Tony Alford is probably a little bit persona non grata around portions of the building and large portions of the Ohio State fan base. He said really appreciates how hard Tony Alford coached him, also appreciates how hard Carlos Loughlin has coached him, and really is grateful for having both of those guys as part of his story.
Yeah, I think we talked about it in one of the last shows. Everybody just is really, really happy with Carlos Loughlin, Ryan Day especially, but even his running backs who are getting yelled at by him on the daily, but it's all coming from a good place. So I think that will go ahead and do it. If you could go ahead and hit the thumbs up before we go, we would appreciate that. And of course, hit the bell to be notified, because we're going live all the time now, because the season is almost half over. I'm just going to say that it's not, but it will be before you know it.
The regular season is a quarter over, and after this weekend, it will be a third over. The first road game generally does mean some extra bonus live shows for you.
Yes, we will be on the road. Hotel or team arrival on Friday. We've got plans for you. So hit that bell to be notified, subscribe to the channel, and you can follow along the entire way. And of course, continue to find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Become a premium member. It is the best way to support what we do. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you all later.